Hey, finance students. Welcome to Chapter 10. We finished last week talking about bonds in Chapter 9. Now we're going to talk about the other part of an organization's financial structure, the capital structure, and that is equity, or that is stock. And there are two different types of stock. We have common stock and preferred stock, which we will talk about both of those and the calculation of both of those in this in these practice problems. But it's important to understand that you have both of those areas of financing for an organization: bonds, which represent an organization's debt, and equity, which is stocks, both preferred and common stock. And make sure you've reviewed the book and the PowerPoint presentation to understand the differences between common stock and preferred stock, what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, some of the characteristics that they have before you dig into the calculations. So as we go through this, there's a couple different things that we need to look at. We need to look at being able to calculate both the price or the value of the stock, the expected market price of the stock that we're looking at, and also the required return. Both are very important, very useful for many different things, especially comparison, looking at rates of return on one stock versus another stock. And then also the price. Do the prices and the rates of return kind of agree, and they match up with each other as an investor and also as a financial manager and a creditor? So we're going to go through a few of these problems. We start here on ICA 10-1 and look at a couple of these that we have. So let's start with the first one. The main thing we are looking at is the application of the dividend growth model. Okay, and the dividend growth model, the formula for that is just simply the next dividend D1 divided by the the price of a stock is equal to the next dividend D1 divided by K, the cost of equity or the required rate of return, K of E, minus the growth rate. That's what we have. Okay, so we're going to need that model and make sure that we understand that in the application of that we have. So in order to do that, in order to use this, I'm going to highlight this, make it bold, underline it because it's very important. We're going to do that. So let's try this. XYZ stock recently paid a $5 dividend. So that is our previous dividend. That would be considered D0, would be $5. So we're going to plug that in right here. Not $500, $5. Having problems with my keyboard. $5. There we go. That is our previous dividend. The last dividend. So that would be considered D0. D1 would be considered the next dividend that we would expect to receive as investors. The dividend is expected to grow at 10% per year indefinitely. So that would be our growth rate, 10%. What would we be willing to pay if our required return is 15%? So the question is asking, what is really the current market price? So I'm going to highlight that cell because that's what we're looking to find. What is the expected price of this stock if our required return, which is K, is 15%? Okay, so we have everything except for D1, which is our next dividend. And how do we calculate that? Well, we need to know our growth rate, which we do is 10%. We need to know our previous dividend of $5. So in order to calculate our next one, we know that the dividend is going to be $5 plus a 10% growth over the original $5. So that's $5 plus 10% times my original dividend of $5. That gives us a next dividend, D1, of $5.50. So now that we have that, we can use our dividend growth model to calculate the price. So we have a price is equal to our D1 divided by the cost of equity, represented by K, sometimes the letter K, sometimes the letter R, R of S, R of J. Make sure you understand those are all interchangeable, minus our growth rate of 10%, close my parentheses, hit enter. And so that shows us that we expect the price to be about $110 for XYZ stock. Okay? All right, let's go down here and we're going to look at Grape Ape. Grape Ape currently pays a $3.60 annual cash dividend. So we have $3.60. It plans to maintain its dividend at this level for the foreseeable future as no future growth is anticipated. So that means my growth rate is 0. If the required return on common stockholders is 12%, what should the price of the stock be? Well, since there's no growth here, in order to find our next dividend, It's pretty much $3.60. There is no growth, so my D0 is going to be the same thing as my D1, same thing as my D2, D3, whatever. So really no calculation behind that. There's no growth, so that's just the same dividend. Now we can calculate my expected price. I'm going to highlight that cell because that's what we're looking to find. So we have our dividend, 360, divided by my required rate of return, 12%, minus my growth rate of 0. And we have expected price on Grape Ape is about $30 that we see. Okay? So how about one more? Sarah's stock recently paid $3 dividend. So it's a $3 dividend, has a price of $27 and an expected growth rate of 5%. What is the rate of return on her stock? So let's try one more. So she recently paid a $3 dividend, growth rate of about 5%. The price is $27, and my next dividend is going to be calculated the way that we did it before. So it's my original $3 plus my 5% growth times my original $3. So it's 5% over $3, so $3.15. So for this one, what is the rate of return on the stock? So we are looking for the K. So we're looking for the K as part of this formula. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring it down here. So we know that our formula, So we know that our formula is this. Oh, it's not copying. Okay, copy. There we go. So we know our formula is this. We want to know what is K. So if we rearrange our formula, we can see that the calculation for the rate of return for a stock can be found with, again, D1 divided by our price plus the growth rate. Now notice, I'm not using any parentheses here because we want to divide our dividend by our price first and then add the growth rate back in. So for this one, to find the required return on the stock or the rate of return on the stock, we're going to take our D1 of $3.15 divided by price of $27, and we're going to add in our growth rate of 5%. So that gives us an expected return or a required return, a rate of return of about 16.67%. That is how you calculate the price of a stock or the rate of return on a stock based on the dividend growth model.